I pinch you in the hip, if I twist you real hard, that could take
All right,
you
y'all,
out.
the time is set.
I'm gonna start about to do it. When I come back after the video.
I got you.
He came to see the show. I guess my time. He came to see the. He gonna come by himself.
Audience and everything.
Hey, everybody, we're back. Today is, what is today, James? What day are we on?
The 27th.
27th? 27th of March. We are back here live from the studio today. It's so good to be back in the studio, is it not?
It is.
It is. I was
Been a
out.
while.
Time.
It's been a minute. Last, I think, 2 weeks ago I was in Texas, and last week we had our event, our seminar. So we missed last week. But a lot of things have happened over the last week here in the state of Georgia, has it not? Maybe you guys? No?
Yeah.
Yeah? No? No? No?
Mhm.
No? But today we're going to take this show out to kind of, first off, I'm going to introduce everybody who's on the panel today, because some of these are new faces, some of these are old faces. To my immediate left, or is it right on the screen? It's right. To my immediate right, we have Darren, who's our social media specialist. He's going to give y'all a quick wave. Darren, there you go. Hey. Next to him, we have Ariel, who is our community liaison. So and she was on here, if you guys remember, she was on here with Adam and Eve discussing her view of how Adam was so right. On the opposite side, right across from her, we have Christelle. She is another one of our other community liaison people. And we have our partner, the CFO of both organizations, of Black Push and Nubi Corp, James Henderson. So you guys, let's just kick it off. So as you guys know, Georgia has had a different week. We've had a lot of things happen in Georgia. We just passed the bill on voting, or as they say, making voting more fair, right? Just and whether or not you know about the bill or not, from the little bit of information that you do know, do you guys feel like this bill makes voting more fair?
Not at all.
Why not? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, anytime you are making it more difficult for your constituents to get out and vote, to cast their vote that they are legally capable of being able to do, and you make it more difficult for them to do, that is not being fair. You're hindering them from being able to do it in the simplest form possible, but they're being hindered by less polling places, less time, just any number of things that will hinder someone from being able to actually vote, to cast their vote. And yes, that is unfair.
So what about you? Anybody else think that this voting bill, or does everybody think this voting bill was even needed?
No. And who is it fair to? Because we have a lot of older seniors. That's who I think of first, of even trying to get to the polls, and they have trouble. Things close down, like you said, James, earlier. It's harder for some seniors to get transportation to their voting areas. So then when we have these things where with the absentee ballots, we have even more restrictions on that. It's like you have to have a copy of this, a copy of that. Who's making these copies for these people, especially our seniors, who is able to get, them to have these documents that they need in order just to have a vote. And so it's just not fair to them, and it's not, I don't see who is helping.
Right. When you mention the copies and everything, then I don't know if it's already written down, or if that's something that they are, what I'm getting ready to say here, is that, are these going to have to be stamped, notarized copies that these folks are going to have to require to show? So now you're taking us all the way back to the 40s, 20s, where you have to show documentation of who you are and prove who you are first. That's what it reminds me of anyway, and which was something that they did, communist parties and I would even say Germany. I think you had to carry around a bunch of papers with you to show who you are just to travel. And, we did experience that at one point here in this country. So here we are again, having to carry a bunch of extra documentation just to be able to vote.
Yeah. And then too, I think it goes back to it. Not only does it limit that. So one of the things that they did in the bill is that, like, let's say you were out waiting in line and somebody bought you water, that person can now be prosecuted or taken to jail for bringing you water while you wait in line. Like, and sometimes when people wait in 2 to 3 hours, I think somebody brought up earlier, like, what about a diabetic grandma who's sitting in line waiting to vote, right? How do we not feed grandma? You know what I'm saying? How do we not feed her when she needs to eat? Or we can't bring her water. We can't give her a sandwich because now it's illegal to even do so. And it goes back to kind of like, I think something happened like this recently because I know the church Reuniting Christ, they do a lot of homeless feedings. And in order for them to do so, they had to apply for like a surf safe and a whole, they had to change how they do homeless feedings now because even the city doesn't even allow them to just openly feed the homeless anymore.
All right.
Like, so I mean, it's for people, it's funny to me that for people who are so big on limiting government, they only want to limit government when it benefits them. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
So, but I mean, and there was something else that happened earlier this week that I think that everybody should kind of see, and then we'll kind of bring it up. So, everybody knows Park Cannon. Park Cannon was on our show a few times before. I want to show this video, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
The governor is signing a bill that affects doing it in private, and why is he trying to keep elected officials who are representing us out of the process?
Exactly. Are you serious?
No, you are not. Represent.
No. She's not under arrest.
For what? Under arrest for what? For trying to see something that our governor is doing? Our governor is signing a bill that affects all Georgians, and you're going to arrest an elected representative. Why are you arresting her? Tell us now. Why are you arresting her? Cite it. Give me a reason why you are arresting her. Give me a reason why you are arresting her. She is an elected representative. You are choosing to arrest an elected official. Cite the statute. Cite the statute that you are arresting her under.
Thursday night, right? And that was Representative Park Cannon, like I said, who's been on our show numerous times before. She was arrested for knocking on the door of the governor's office while they were actually trying to sign the bill. And she was arrested. I guess the officers, from what they say, I'm just going to put out all the details of it. From what they say, the officer gave her multiple warnings telling her, hey, if you keep knocking on the door, we will arrest you. That's from their side. But once again, this is the state capitol. She's a state representative, which means this is her place of employment. And I think it was Camille who went with me to the house, to the Capitol. When we went to the Capitol, we walked right into the governor's office, like per se his front doors to the office where the security and everybody was at, in order to request an appointment. So what makes Park Cannon so different if she's an elected official? Should she have even been arrested for going to, like, that's her place of work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Christelle, what you guys, you see your face?
I mean, I think it was definitely unfair that they know that she works there and they still took her away. But I guess because she was knocking on the door, it's kind of like, we're kind of busy in here, be mindful and be respectful, I guess. But I guess she was just trying to show them that, hey, we're upset, we're angry, really, even though it was sort of unfair. Yeah.
What you think, Ari?
I think just the manner of the whole situation, she shouldn't have even had to have knocked on the door so aggressively like that. She shouldn't have been, we should be transparent about our whole voting process, period. So, and I think we all kind of know exactly why this bill was put into place and why it's been moved along. But I think even the extraness of the extra officers taking her out, it was really unnecessary. We didn't need all of that. Like you said, it is her place of employment. I'm sure there's other ways to go about things, especially more quietly, and still handle, business.
They could have escorted her out, or just
Yeah,
that's it. You know
that's
what
what I
I'm
was
saying?
gonna
They
say,
didn't have
too.
to do
They didn't
all
have to
that
arrest her.
extra when by cuffing her and then using two men. Like, why do you need two men for? I mean, I don't think she was resisting like that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
from the video, she
Yeah,
wasn't.
so it's kind of like, why did you need all these men holding her back, and why did we have to arrest her? You could have easily said, "Hey, ma'am, you're, making a lot of noise. We need you to step out the building," and that's it. You could have easily handled it like that, but instead they decide to take. I don't know. I thought it was a lot.
Yeah, it was extra. They could have just took her back to her office if she worked
Mhm.
there. Like, hey, yo, look, we're gonna escort you back to your office. Y'all can talk about this later.
Right.
But then my question is, like, if he's signing a bill, these are state representatives. Usually, state representatives are part of the bill signing. Why do they have police stand in front of the governor's door when the people who come through the Capitol, like, no one just walks into the Capitol. Everybody goes through security in order to even get there. Why did they feel like it was such a big deal where they had to actually have security standing at the Capitol? I mean, standing at his door to protect him from doing a bill signing when people go through security to even get in the building to begin with.
I guess it depends on what was being signed. I mean, I guess none of us are state representatives. We don't know what was really going on. But maybe it was something that she wasn't a part of at that time.
Yeah, I mean,
So that's the big thing.
it was bill. It was the bill that they stated that they passed in the House and they passed in the Senate, and literally like there was 4 hours between the time they passed the bill to the time he signed it, and it was him signing the bill into law that's supposed to make voting more fair. And as you know, most organizations we find that the voting. I mean, we didn't. There wasn't a problem. I mean, you look at every stat. There wasn't an issue in the last election at all. Like we voted. I mean, we voted. They counted our votes not one time, not two times. They counted our votes in Georgia 3 times. So what changed?
They lost.
My point exactly, right?
That's the only, they lost. It went from red to blue.
Yeah.
And as far as her, does this now become for her a long term on her record a criminal record now on against her? And if it does, how long is she going to continue to be able to stay in office? Will she be able to serve it out, or will it's going to be pending after hearing in court and this, that, and the other thing? So it's all, to me, it was all a setup. And being able to eliminate one at a time. And if she's the most vocal, then we go ahead and we get with her first. And then if anybody else steps up, then we try to shut them down. And it's all, step by step, systematic elimination of people who have a voice and are using it and being able to put them in handcuffs to help shut them down. Now, that may or may not do anything, but it gives the appearance that they're being completely radicals, which is one of the words that they used against Warnock during their anti-Warnock campaign for the January 5th election. So, I mean, we have to remember words make a huge difference as to and makes a difference as to how people are going to view things. So they say felony as opposed to misdemeanor. And it makes a difference. And it makes a difference as to her livelihood, and set and use her as an example of what is to come for anybody else who wants to oppose them.
Well, that makes me wonder who else supports her and why she was the only one knocking.
Yeah, but then too, I will say this too. There was other representatives who was standing there holding the camera, but they wasn't knocking on the door. I mean, once again, and I mean, if they believed in the same thing that she believed in, why does she have to be? I mean
singled out.
Right. They was all standing there, and I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I would hate for her to lose her position because we do need more, like, black representatives and stuff in those positions of power. So I hope that she's versed in the law, that she ain't gonna lose her job off this.
No, I think she'll
Because,
she'll be
you know,
okay.
We
Yeah.
do need representatives up
Yeah,
there that
but it-
kinda show.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You need the representatives, but what this shows is that they're out to get whoever opposes the loudest voice. That you know, they're out to get the loudest voice, and just use them as an example, even if it's just inconvenient and will take a few dollars out of their pocket.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I really do. I mean, we have to understand too that we do have I guess, a system that says people are innocent until proven guilty. So I mean, it won't be like she just loses her job automatically, right? She has to be prosecuted. She has to be indicted. The state of Georgia has an indictment system, but I have a difference of opinion on. So who's to say it even makes it to indictment? And then because it happened in Fulton County, the DA's office, which they have DA Fannie Willis down there, she can decide not to pursue it. You know what I'm saying? So there's a whole process that has to happen before we get there. But the question still lingers: was it fair? Should she have been charged with a felony of obstruction? Even though as the officer stated that they did give her multiple warnings, telling her that they would charge her if she continued. Like, once again, like, I'm unbiased from the perspective that I also understand that what we're trying to do, but I also understand that there are laws in place for a reason, right? And when an officer gives us a warning, whether we agree or disagree, sometimes the best thing we could do in that matter is to follow that warning. Definitely when it's not something that's like life-threatening. Like when you look at George Floyd and people stand outside saying, hey, take your foot off his neck, that's different than no matter me knocking on the door or not, it wasn't going to stop Governor Nathan Deal from signing the bill or not, right? Me knocking on the door wasn't going to change that. So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I still don't agree with it, but I'm saying there's a whole aspect of things that go into it. In law enforcement, they have laws. They have the right to use those laws. And I go back to saying that if we have a problem with them arresting her based upon that particular law, then it's not a problem of whether they were in the right to use the law. The problem is that we need to change the law. And that's what we have to start looking at. And I think that's one of the discussions we had last week, that we're so minded on what's going on right now that we don't take a step back and say, what's the policies that allow for this to happen, and try to fix those policies.
Yeah, I think it's better to fight it in court than out in the streets.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. It's just better than getting arrested and doing all that. You'd probably just be better off just like you said, kind of stepping back, just fighting in court or figuring out another way.
But then there are some things that are worthy of arresting, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you there's a guy by the name of Dr. Vernon Jones, and Dr. Vernon Jones preached at a church in Alabama before Martin Luther King got there. I think it wasn't Ebenezer, but I forgot the name of the church. But he made a statement. His last sermon at his church was that he told his members that if you see a black man on the street getting beat up by the police, you're just as guilty as the police, because you stood there and you allowed it to happen, right? So there are some things that are worth, like, George, you seeing somebody kill a person on the side of the street and you not stepping in. That's egregious. When I watched the videos of some of these agents, there was an older Asian lady in New York who had got attacked, right? And people were standing there recording, but no one stepped in. That's egregious, right? Someone should have stepped in. This lady's like in her 80s, right, and they're watching her get beat up by this young person, and no one's doing anything about it, right? Those are things that are egregious. But when it comes to things like policy, sometimes the best way of moving policy is not from the perspective of being on a megaphone yelling at the party across the street from you. It's scheduling a meeting and sitting down with that person one-on-one and trying to talk about those agreements and those disagreements. You know what I'm saying? Like, we do that all the time. I think even in our office, we have agreements and disagreements, but we sit down and we discuss them. We may not always agree on everything, but the fact of the matter is that you can't say I haven't heard your side, and you can't say you haven't heard my side.
So true.
I like a little violence sometimes, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I mean, but once again,
I do.
There are some things that call for violence, and I think there's some things that I think there's some things that we've attached violence to that doesn't call for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we go out and we protest in the streets when George Floyd got killed, but yet we're burning down places, like we're trying to break into CNN, or we're burning down businesses that have been around forever. Like, how does that benefit what we're trying to do? You follow what I'm saying? Like, how does that benefit it? You know, we can go out there and protest peacefully and let it be known that this is the issue that affects our community and we're upset about it. But burning down a building ain't going to change the fact. All that's going to do is, once again, they have policy on their side. You know what I'm saying? They have laws on their side.
They got insurance.
They got insurance. And then places like CNN, when you have Ted Turner now considering, moving CNN or moving out of Atlanta, I mean, he's been a pillar in this community. How many jobs has he created in this community? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That affects everybody.
That's
a lot of people.
jobs.
That's a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to always think about that too. Like, we got to make sure that we're doing things and we're making moves in our community to make our community better. And you can still have a voice and not be riotous about having your voice. But there are some times where you need to be vocal, right?
Yeah.
And it's knowing when to do it. Does that make sense? For me, that's my opinion. It's knowing when to do it and how to do it.
I like what Malcolm X said. We're going to do this by the bullet or by the ballot. And the ballot always comes first because, that's the correct way to go about doing things. But if it comes down to it, and like you said, some things are necessary for violence and this, that, and the other thing. If it comes down to it to protect yourself, if we can't get protection through the law, then we have to stand up for ourselves and protect ourselves. So I understand fully what he was saying. And, you have to do things decency and in order. And that means, going through the ballot process first. And then whatever you find necessary afterwards. But that's an individual, personal thought.
Opinion.
Yeah. But
oh,
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I seen more policies get passed after those riots though for police. Even in my own community, like Hawaii Beach, like after people was rioting and doing stuff, way more policies got passed. People was like, "Yo, we need to do something,"
right?
Because this is becoming a problem. Because it wasn't just black people; it was
everybody.
Yeah.
But that only got to happen when everybody else got involved.
Exactly, when everybody gets involved.
When it was just us, nothing was being done.
But then that's another good discussion. Has it ever just been us? Like in all reality, I think that we do really bad by not giving justice to the fact that people before us marched with us. Like when we were out there marching in 1964, and we were out there, it was not just black people. Let's just clear it up.
It
We
was
were majority.
Jews out
There was
there.
Jews, there were white, there were Asians out there. And I think that a lot of times we don't give credit to where credit's due. It was never just us, right? I mean, but and I agree, right? There has to be moments of, and I won't take the Malcolm X approach of, the ballot or the bullet, because I don't really support violence. But there has to be moments of vocalism where we can able to vocalize ourselves, right? I think that, I'm more of a Martin Luther King kind of guy, like boycotting, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when Martin Luther King was done protesting, what did he do? He went down and he sat down with Lyndon B. Johnson and had a whole discussion about policy, about the voting rights bill, right? He knew that it wasn't just enough to be protesting in the streets, that once you had a voice in the room, you had to take that opportunity to use the voice in the room. Lyndon B. Johnson and Martin Luther King probably didn't agree on much. Think about a lot of things that happened to Martin Luther King. Lyndon B. Johnson kind of signed off on it. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like they had the best relationship, but at the same time, when he got the opportunity to be in the room with him, he didn't just dismiss it. You know what I'm saying? He took that opportunity too. He used the platform of being vocal about their boycotting, about their, as you would use the term, bullet, right? About their being in the community, being violent in the community, being active. I use the word active. I don't like the word violent, right?
Yeah,
active in the community to be the platform for what got him a voice in the room. Does that make sense? And we got to make sure that, I think we have to have a fair balance of both.
Yeah, my opinion goes offline.
But once again, like some people do agree and go with the metaphor that violence is the way to move things, right? I just think that it has to be a mix of both. Like one won't outdo the other, right? And I think it goes back to the whole biblical verse. James said, "You show me your faith without works, I'll show you my faith by my works," which means that it's not for us to even sit in this room and talk about this. It's for us to still go. Like for me personally, this bill, I get it. It was signed. It said I can't give nobody water. But now, what are the recourses we're going to take? We're going to partner with every other organization we can to try to take this to court. And when the next ballot day comes, if this doesn't get struck down in court, I'm still going to go pass out water. You know what I'm saying? Because of the fact that, once again, that's worthy of going to jail for. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not gonna let grandma sit outside for 4 hours now
And fall out.
and fall out.
So, Case, I had a
Dehydration.
question. So, is
Right.
it on the premises? Like on the premise, you can't give water.
You can't give water on the premise. So
So,
like,
so we just set up something right off the premise.
Right,
Like you got to
just
use the
pass it
law
out.
kind of against them. Just
Okay.
set it up on across the street. That's
Yeah.
how I see it. Just kind of manipulated a little.
So
bit.
are they
They
saying?
gonna put miles on it.
right? But I'm just saying, like, you know,
He said they gonna put miles on it.
They gonna do like, if you don't mind me talking, they're gonna do like, you know how they say you can't wear nothing political a certain many
Mhm.
feet from the place. It's gonna be the same thing.
Yeah, they gonna add, you know, they gonna.
And we'll
define
set
it.
up down the street. That's how I see it. It'd be cool. Look, just kind of abide by the law, but still kind of make a way to do something.
Right.
You know.
But then we use
avoid it, right?
we use the recourses that we have. Like there's a lot of nonprofits who are out there that already getting ready to fight this in court. And what people don't understand is that there's a bill right now. What can kill all of this is the U.S. House. The U.S. House has passed a bill already that would strengthen voting rights, make it easier for people to vote, add in automatic voting, like once a person turns 18 years of age. It's stuck in the Senate because the Senate has rules what they call a filibuster, which means that in order for something to pass the Senate, it has to have 60 votes or not. And the debate right now is, do we eliminate the filibuster and make it a 51 majority? Because majority in the Senate is really 51. Or do we keep the filibuster because even if we eliminate it now, it could come back and hurt the other party later on. You know what I'm saying? Because the other party can go back and say, well, you did it back then. But the reality is Republicans have broken the filibuster plenty of times when they wanted to push the Supreme Court justice, I think, Brett Kavanaugh through. They knew they didn't have the 60 votes, so they got rid of filibuster temporarily, and they reinstated it. So, I mean, they've done it plenty of times. So I'm going to say, for those who are out there, if we really want to make a push, take it to court. Another place we have to deal with it at is we have to push the Senate to do something about it because the bill is sitting in the Senate right now as we speak. The U.S. Senate.
Yeah, I mean, if they set precedents on taking the filibuster out of play and then reinstating it, then you can use the same playbook.
Why not?
If it's legal to do that, then I don't see no reason why the Democrats can't do it either.
Yeah. But on another note, right? So just shifting a little bit here, we had something else that happened interesting this week. So we know, obviously, we talked about this bill. We talked about Park Cannon. But so last week we had a discussion here, and I thought it was a really great dialogue. It was a 2-hour dialogue. We had a lot of people on our panel, a lot of people. And we had a really great dialogue, and we promoted that video, as you guys know, through Facebook, and we started broadcasting it. And there was a lot of people who did not like what we had to say or did not like us or came out the Black push just for our name alone. Like, you guys all work here. Like, we all work here. We all deal with this every day. We all know what we do in this office every day. When nobody else knows what we do, we know what we do in this office. So my question to you guys is, like, how do you feel about some of the feedback we've gotten off of Facebook and some of the love we received from Facebook? Definitely starting with you because you see it more because you're the social media specialist.
I will say it's interesting because Black people only make up 13% of the population. So sometimes we have to be realistic with some of our approaches. The majority of people that are going to see anything we do is going to be everyone else. So it's it's within means. I mean, like, so if we're only 13% and we already have the name Black in front, I figure everybody behind that is going to be other 60-70% of the people are going to be of another race. They're going to feel some way naturally, which is which makes sense. Because if it would have said anything other push, we'd have been like, yo, is this for us? What kind of issues y'all got? So I get it. I think that the people that did reply are just some of the comments were a little off. I think people should ask questions first. That's really the biggest thing. Just ask questions first, because I mean the comments they made, some of them didn't even make sense. I mean I don't think they looked at any of the content we have or anything like that. So I just think they just didn't make sense. I was like, So yeah, that's my opinion. Like, we make up the smallest percent of the population. People are gonna always. There's gonna be more opinions towards us than for us. Naturally.
What about you, Ari? Like, is that who we are? Like, do you feel like as an organization that we only support Black initiatives?
No, but we also I just think that we're the only ones that aren't as supported in the community as we think we are, and we have a lot more disadvantages. So of course, you're looking for to pull the person with the most disadvantages, give them a head, a foot forward or something to help us at least get some type of equality at some point. I also think that, of course, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but before you spew your opinions, especially for thousands to see, at least be more conscious of what you're speaking on and have some sort of knowledge from what you've seen and research for yourself versus just spewing off something that you've heard
Right.
and you are not 100% sure on what it is that what hill you're trying to die on, and is it worth spreading that ignorance to other people. You don't know. You say, hey, I watched this video for 15 minutes,
I saw that too.
but I'm gonna tell you how I disagree, but I didn't see everything.
Right.
How do you speak on something and you don't know the range of what you're speaking on? You don't, maybe they even touched on something that you agree with, but you wouldn't know because you only made it to a certain point. You don't see the whole picture, and you don't want to see, and that's my thing. People don't want to see what's right in front of them. For whatever you're scared of, dealing with that internally, that's on you though, and your own personal growth. But that's another story.
I'm next.
You are.
Honestly, truthfully, I thought it was a bunch of crap. Like, people are afraid of what they don't know. They didn't take the time to pretty much educate themselves as far as like what's going on, especially when it comes to certain events because their life is okay or because their life is privilege or whatever the fact may be, that they don't think that other people's going through things, or they don't like when other people speak up about it, or like Ari said, they took literally 15 seconds, 15 minutes to watch the video, watch the podcast, and they just ran with that. I was like, okay, well, this looked like a racist group. I'm going to say my opinion before I truly understand what this organization is about. I think it's ignorance, not wanting to see the bigger picture, not wanting to see what's truly happening in the world, and I just feel like they just don't want to really truly help. They just, okay, this is happening. Why are you guys fighting about it? Let it be. You guys always saying that you guys are oppressed or whatever the case may be, but this is racist. Like, if we're fighting for ourselves, they feel like it's a racist thing. Like, if we're trying to at least get the same type of rights like they are getting, they feel like we're doing the most, or they feel like, I don't know. It's just a lot. I just feel like they just need to take the time out to truly understand what we're for, instead of running with it.
All right. Okay. Well, first and foremost, I think we're dealing with based on the comments and stuff, closed-minded people, and not willing to open up their mind and hear the other side. You're just going by what you know from the past, and that may or may not be wrong. You're not interested in looking to find out any more information about what's going on. You're just going just purely what's on surface.
Exactly.
And that to me is being closed-minded, because you're not interested in trying to find out anything more. You're not checking the details, and you want to be upset about the surface.
Yeah.
And it's there's a lot of underneath the surface once you get beneath it. But if you're not willing to get underneath the surface, then all you're gonna do is just continue to put out that kind of those kind of comments without being knowledgeable about what you're talking about.
Yeah, and no disrespect to the elderly and the older people, but definitely a lot of the comments came, from people that like our generation. We're in the information era, so we like to look up stuff. We like to research a little bit more. So I feel like some of those comments are, like you said, they're from the old times. That's just how they old thinking. But I feel like the younger people are more receptive because we have more information in front of us. We actually are more mingled and intermingled and everything. So I feel like that too is a factor. Because I always like to look at the realistic side with 13%, us being the smallest. America's reading rate is from 7 to 8. You know what I'm saying? Like, so most people can't even. You think about how you read at seventh, 8th grade. Comprehension was really low. So I feel like a lot of times that's a problem too. We have to look at the realistic side of things. We can't expect people to understand great concepts or grand concepts or a lot of stuff for real.
The big picture.
The bigger picture, for real. 'Cause, like their reading levels, and you know what I'm saying, like people like being a small. It's just so many factors. So I feel like, I think the more we just educate people, and maybe we should maybe that'd be something new that we jump into. Maybe just having different races come on and we kind of build with them so that they can see a different aspect, so they don't think that just because it says black push it means only black people.
Right.
It just means that black and black is encompasses all people.
Right.
Like we all come from a sense of a black ancestor, in a sense. I don't want to get too deep in that, but it encompasses all people because we are very empathetic people. So yeah, definitely.
All right.
Hey, this disco. I'm gonna be real honest with all y'all in here. I just met this corporation organization 2 months ago, and I'm gonna say this on air. I have never once even freestyle talking with you guys outside of here in your office. I have never heard y'all bash any other race ever. I think you guys get to what comes to y'all. You can't help the fact that the people that reach out to you is who they are. I never once heard the guy who runs the program say, "I'm not dealing with that race. This race, that race." You deal the hand that is brought to you. And I honestly can say that on some real stuff, being 100, I have never seen a bad bone in nobody in y'all corporation's body. Even off air, in the room, us cracking jokes, never seen it. So I applaud y'all. I think people gonna have the impression of y'all just because of the name. That's how ignorant people do, and you can't help. People gonna be ignorant. If y'all was called something else, they gonna find something else to still talk about.
Exactly.
So I'm telling y'all from the heart, keep doing what you're doing, because I know y'all are genuine people, and keep it moving. Period.
And I'm just to close out this part of the
Appreciate
topic
it.
for
Thank
me,
you.
like for me, I just take it personally because I know, like, at the end of the day, when I think me and you had a discussion when the Asian population that got killed, my response literally was like, okay, what can we do to help that community, right? There were people who are out here who are social leaders in the community. Was like, well, they've never done anything to help our community. I don't care. I mean, I don't want to see an Asian person killed on the side of the street. I don't want to see a white person killed on the side of the street. I don't want to see a black person killed on the side of the street. I don't want to see a Hispanic person killed on the side of the street. When I go to jails and county jails, I don't like seeing black people, white people, anybody mistreated by this system. I think the system has to be more fair for everybody. We look at the reality. If you go to South Georgia, there's a huge white homeless population. Like, in our minds as African Americans, we sometimes look at white people and think that all of them are rich, all of them have all this glamour. No, there's some of them who live in way worse conditions than we've ever lived in, right? How do we make a voice for all those people is what we fight for. And the reason why our name was pretty much called Black Push is, at the time, there was a lot going on in the African American community, right? And I don't apologize for the name. The name ain't gonna never change, right? There was a lot going on in the African American community, and it goes to the whole theology that if there's a house on fire, if there's 5 houses on the street and one house is on fire, we deal with the house that's on fire, right? I'm not gonna go try to help him out of his house. If his house not on fire, I'm gonna go to the house that's on fire. And at the time, there was a lot going on in the African American community, and there's still a lot going on in the African American community, right? But that doesn't neglect the fact that there's other communities out there that need help too. I am highly offended when I watch the news every day, and even the amount of violence that's going on against Asian Americans and Asians, period, because people are trying to associate the virus or COVID due to them, right? And I think there was an elderly lady out of California. She was like 80-something years old, and she got beat up and got hurt really badly. And her son started a GoFundMe for me. And there was an article that just came out the other day that she's taking $1 million of that GoFundMe. They went out to try to raise $80,000, and they raised over like $1 million for her medical expenses. And she's taking $1 million of that and donated it back to helping start organizations or promoting organizations that stand up for Asian rights, right? But that offends me, right? That offends me because of the fact that why should they be afraid to walk down the street? You know what I'm saying? And for those, and this is what I'll talk about when I say like, for those of us, when we can talk about the things that we agree on, nobody should be afraid to walk down their street or any other street in the United States of America or anywhere, period. You know what I'm saying? No one should feel like if I'm in Buckhead, I have to walk or act a certain kind of way versus if I'm in Bankhead, right? I should be able to live how I live in Bankhead, how I live in Buckhead, right? And it's changing that dynamic. And I think that we all can agree that. I mean, I don't think a white person wants to come into a predominantly black neighborhood and feel afraid. Vice versa, a black person shouldn't go into a predominantly white neighborhood and feel afraid, right? Those are the dynamics we have to change. And I think that if you talk about that, I think we all can agree on that. Whether you're white, black, Hispanic, I mean, right? Should we all be able to agree on that?
Yeah, yes. But the difference between walking and being yourself and walking through, as a black man, walking through Bankhead, I deal with the people who live in Bankhead. In Buckhead, it's not the people that live there I have to deal with. It's the police that I have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, come on, now, let's be honest. So you have people who, I'm just thinking about it from another perspective, right? There was a young lady who was outside trying to sell hot dogs or something like that to try to raise money to go on a trip to Disney World, right? It wasn't the police that came out and gave her a problem. It was her neighbor who seen her, and they started calling her the white, whatever. What was the name they called her? Cameron, because she went out there and she's like, you can't do that in this neighborhood. You don't do that in this neighborhood. She called the police. And based upon the laws of that county and of that state, they found them to be in violation, right? Whether or not we agree or disagree on whether or not that was fair, but it wasn't the police that activated that. It was a citizen. So it was a person. It was an average person. We got to understand that most police-involved shootings don't just start because the police officer just want to just pull you over and do something to you. Somebody called him. George Floyd. There was a guy, the guy who owned the grocery store, called the police on George Floyd because he thought that he was giving him a fake 20 or something like that, or fake money, basically, right? It's initiated, right? And you know, I was because once again, I'm not that. I mean, I sit in meetings with police officers all day. I all day, every day. Like I just sat in a meeting with them a couple of days ago, and they were talking to us about, and they actually gave us through in Cobb County. They have a new training center, and they took us through the whole training center and gave us a tour, right? And there's a specific room they have there where like they have a bank, right? And they have an apartment complex, and then they have a hotel room, right? And they train their officers on these different scenarios, like what if you do if you go into anyone. They have a racetrack, like it's built out in there, it's fake, but it's like different scenarios, right? And then they took us to the room next door where they have this 3-panel screen, and it's like they'll run different scenarios. So like you'll go before a person and you'll say, hey, I need you to, put your hands up. And they'll change the scenario where the person may not put their hands up, or the person goes into their pocket. Like, and they ask you the question, like, in real time, what would you do? And when you go through that, and you could probably speak to this probably more than anybody because you've been in the military, but when you go through that, it's a different reality versus what we think it is. It's easy for me to stand up and say, you know what, they shouldn't have shot the person. But if I'm in a situation where I was called out, and what I'm called out for is that somebody would have robbed someplace, right? And I go out and I'm looking at this person, and this person fits all the criteria for it, and I say, hey, put your hands up, and the first thing that the person does is reach in their pocket. I want to go home too, right? I mean, when you guys go to war, it's the same. It's kind of the same concept. When they go to war, I mean, they don't know who over there is good or bad. Like, you guys really just, I mean, you guys have done some of those same scenarios too, right?
We've done some of those training as well, and we do it on a range days where you go out there and just, they kind of put you in a scenario where somebody's holding somebody hostage or something. How would you react? They do where a dude might have you don't know what he has in his pocket. It's like it spits out a random thing. It could be a wallet, it could be a gun, it could be, a pen, and you just got to react.
And you got to react.
Yeah.
So I mean that
in a timely fashion.
In a timely fashion
to get shot. I mean, you got like there's not really much reaction time.
And on some of those scenarios, the person was going in their pocket for a piece of gum, right? And you shot them because of the fact that in the real time, you're thinking about your life. And once again, I know that training from police officers has to be better. I'm not justifying, nor am I saying that it's okay to kill a black, white, Hispanic, Asian, nobody, right? I think that training has to be better, but we also have to be real enough to look at it from the other side. And I think that that's the part that we continue to miss, right? Yeah, that these are people just like anybody else. It's not I can't go with the philosophy that every police officer. I would say if we look at it as a whole, the amount of police officers out there on the street, we got 3% that just completely need to go, right? But there's 97%. Like nobody, who in this room tell me that if somebody break into your house, you gonna call your neighbor Pookie and tell Pookie to come over and check out the house? You're not. You calling the police because you want to know who broke in there. You want them to do fingerprints. You want them to check the door. If you got cameras, you want them to find out who did it. Period. Right? Nobody gonna say that if somebody broke into your car, you gonna call me and be like, Sean, I need you to come see what they did to my windows. You don't care what Sean thinks. You gonna want to know. You want the police to come out there and fingerprint every part of that car. You know what I'm saying? So at the same time, like I get it. When they're wrong, they have to be held accountable. When they're wrong, we have to have more transparency, right? And if there are policies, and I say this again, if there are policies that give them too much power, we need to look at those policies and do something about them, right? But the only way we're going to do that is once again by protesting, with or without the bullet, and we have to, and also
incorporate policies.
Yeah, incorporate policies, meet them at the ballot. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting, Judge Angela Brown was on our show, and I keep going back to this, and it was her and Fallon McClure, and they talked about. Fallon spoke about how she was a solicitor first, and then she became a defense attorney. So she liked the predicament she was in because she was able to see the law from both perspectives, like see the law from the perspective of how it feels to prosecute somebody, but also see the law from the perspective of how it feels to actually have to stand up and defend the person who's being prosecuted. Right? I think that I think even people in the DA's office, I think the DA's office would be a lot more transformative if they had people who were defense attorneys / prosecutors, right? They're able to see it from both angles. I think the bench doesn't just need to be a judge who was a prosecutor all their life. They've never done anything but prosecute, right? Because they can't see what it's like to actually stand up and have to represent somebody who looked guilty as heck. But at the end of the day, I fought so hard for you and proved that you were not guilty. And I know what it feels like. I know how it impacted your life when you were not guilty but being treated like you were. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that every single bit of government, every single bit of position of power needs to have a person who's seen both sides of it, right? We need to have more people who are ex-offenders, elected officials, more people like them on the commission board, more people like them on the mayor, sitting in the mayor's chair, more people like them sitting in. I think that police officers need to be sometimes that, not all of them, some ex-offenders need to be allowed to be police officers. Why? Because of the fact that they see it from a different perspective. You know what I'm saying? And it hasn't always worked out bad. What's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio where he was going around town busting checks and all this kind of stuff? And then the FBI was like, hey, catch me if you can. Then they went to him and was like, you got a choice. You can work for us or you can continue to go out and do what you do and we'll chase you down, right? And it ended up being a really good thing. And it's a true story. It ended up being a really good thing.
Yeah, that happens.
Why can't we use more ex-offenders in that light, right? Because they're able to see it from another side. You know what I'm saying? I think that everybody, like, I don't like term limits. I'm sorry. I'm a fan of term limits. You shouldn't be able to sit up in the Senate forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and collect $80,000-$90,000 a year, and you never step outside the Senate to know what's going on in the real world because you've been there for so long. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to have term limits.
I agree.
Recycle that baby out.
It's about the insight that it provides to having the full scope of things. Like even with my last job, I had to work in 2 different types of positions in order to make to my next position so I could run it in a way that was beneficial to everybody and was able to run it smoothly and effectively and efficiently. And that if I hadn't did, only one, I wouldn't have been able to see how the other side works and to see the benefits of having the right people in place to do certain things and just knowing people in general and just having a one-sided view. It wouldn't have made me the type of person I am today, the type of leader I am today.
But you know a good example of that? Undercover Boss. Like literally. Like all these
pastors.
Pastors.
I bet every pastor I done had been a pimp, hustler, player, drug dealer. They done did the other side, went to jail, got out.
We got some deacons too. I ain't gonna point no fingers.
Nah, for real. Because they didn't see both sides, so they willing to help people a little bit more because they feel for them. They can feel the people.
More compassion.
But why is that not
compassion.
a requirement for not necessarily all the jobs, but these are important jobs that are
definitely
affecting people. We are electing these people, so why should we just put all this stuff onto one person that is may or may not speak up for us if they don't know.
You know, it's funny. I think we need to reach out to all these elected officials and whatever position they work in, have them go through like a day where they have to be on the other side, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the sheriff, right? He has to spend the night in the county. And there have been some sheriffs in other counties, in other states, that have spent the night in their own jail. And you know what I'm saying? Like have spent the night in their jail to see what the like what it's like. But I think all that's important, right? Because of the fact that we have to remember that people who are in jail, not most of them, there's like 100% evidence that they're going to be charged. And we know that without a shot. Everybody in jail is not in that situation. There's a lot of people who are in jail on he say, she say, what may have been, what could have been. There may be enough evidence. Maybe there's their fingerprints. Maybe there's not. We're still waiting to find out. You know what I'm saying? People, we have the government here that says that we're innocent until proven guilty, but our system is not designed that way. Our system says that you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. And we have to, like, judges have to start changing that mentality. DAs have to start changing that mentality. Officers have to start changing that mentality. Because you're speaking from someone who's been in jail before, I've said to officers plenty of times, I said, what happened to the innocent until proven guilty? I don't care whether it's me or anybody else. You don't treat anybody like they're guilty. You know what I'm saying? They're innocent until proven guilty. Now, once again, if we know without a shadow of a doubt, like we seen them going to church, we seen them shoot everybody in the church, okay, we know that they're not innocent, right? We know that has to be treated differently. And they lock them up differently. They lock people up without who they know are completely going to be, you know, prosecuted. They lock them up totally different. But for those who are out there who are not locked up totally different, like how do we make the system more fair across the board? And I think that goes back to, I was reading a book the other day. It's called the New Jim Crow, talking about how Jim Crow no longer exists, but it's ingrained into our justice system. And like, my question for everybody who watches this podcast is, when is talking about it just going to be enough? Like, I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of coming out here on Saturdays and talking about it. I'm tired of hosting webinars with all these different people talking about it. Like, let's put some feet to it and let's work it. Like, let's start working it. And we even, there's an event that's coming up on, I have the date, but I'll put it out on the website. I was invited by the president of the Cobb County Southern Baptist Convention, I think it was, which is the same convention that Martin Luther King was a part of. But it's a black group, and they're coming around, and they're going to be in Marietta Square protesting for Asian brothers and sisters. I'm all for it. I'll be there. I'll be one of the first ones a part of that, right? Because of the fact that, again, it's not just about impacting the black community. Wherever there's social injustice means wherever there's injustice, that's where we stand up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And even from a Nubi Corp perspective, like Nubi Corp too, I have some people who knock on Nubi Corp, like, oh, another red. I mean, people have been rude about Nubi Corp. And once again, they don't understand. We're here to support any minority business. Now, I will point that out. Any minority business. I'm not here to support all businesses when it comes to Nubi Corp. I support minority businesses. And you know what? If you don't like it, that's my choice. That's my right. You guys who are First Amendment right people, I made that choice. We made that choice. And that's something that's not going to change, right? But at the same time, I think that having discussions like this is just the beginning of it. Like, I'm going to meet with people, you know, you built my schedule out for most of the week, next week, who I don't agree with everything on, right? But we will have those tough discussions. And I hope that at the end of the day, we can come to some kind of agreement.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's who we are. Right?
That is who we are.
I mean, we're passionate about it. That's who we are. And I would say this too. A lot of those people who responded to us on Facebook, believe it or not, I went back and kind of like look at their pages. They are religious, right? Not knowing anything about me, I'm an associate pastor of a church. I'm actually getting ready to be installed tomorrow as the associate pastor of the church I attend. Are you not? You're a deacon at your church. You actually were just out this morning feeding the homeless down in Atlanta. Messy as all outdoors.
My church loves me.
And just, I mean, yeah, my church. I have one of those shirts too. But I'm just saying, like, every day, am I wrong? Right before we leave, we pray before we leave out, and we don't just pray for ourselves, but we pray for like the businesses that are associated to us.
That's right.
Sometimes we pray for different things that are going on in the community. So I mean, and that may be a whole nother topic and a whole nother discussion, but it gets to be a point where the religious community has to really check themselves, right? Because we could become so passionate about something that it looks like we hate people because of who they are or because of what they stand for. And the Jesus I know and the Jesus I serve was all about love. and he went to places where people did not
Yes, sir.
obviously want to go, and he still showed love, like Buckhead and Bankhead.
I show love wherever.
No, I'm just saying, I'm using that as an example. We brought it up earlier today. But I mean, we need to continue to, I mean, that's what, for me, the biggest thing is that, and in spite of everything that people say about us on Facebook, we've actually messaged them back and was like, hey, if you got an opinion, did we not?
Contact us.
Call
Yeah,
us. We said
contact
call us. We 770-933-6215. I'm more than happy. Listen, my calendar may be booked, your calendar may be booked, but either one of us would take the phone call and at least hold the conversation, right? Don't be so big to be willing to knock us, but not be willing to allow us to respond or at least hold the conversation with us.
Stand up for what you believe in. Say what you say and back it up. Let's hold the conversation and be able to have a discussion about it.
And if you ever want to find us, we're at 3330 Cumberland Boulevard Southeast, Suite 500. Just ask for Disco Radio, and he can point you to our, I'm just playing. He can point you to our organization and any one of our offices in the building. Okay, just know that you will be. But no, in all reality, we don't mind holding those tough conversations, because if that's the case, if we're not willing to do that, then we need to get out of the business in which we're in, right?
Well, yeah. Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna bite my tongue on that one. I was getting ready to say something because it's easy to be an internet, bully,
Troll, yeah.
and in reality be a coward. And I'm not trying to say that these are cowardly
I think that
folks.
thug coming out.
But I mean, if you're gonna say it, and talk to me. We can have a dialogue about this. And that's all I'm saying. And like I said, I ain't trying to call nobody a coward, but it's a lot easier to do what you do, and say what you say when there's no face behind the words, and anyway, I'm gonna stop right there.
And I'll just reiterate, all we're saying is we're not calling nobody out. This is not a segment of we're just saying that if you have anything, if you disagree with some of the things that we do, let us know, because sometimes you can open our eyes to things that we don't see. And the best way to get a full view of everything is to hear both sides.
That is correct.
And
I'm willing to have the dialogue with you, just like anyone else.
We ain't hard to find.
We ain't hard to
We
find.
ain't hard to find.
Right.
Yeah,
We ain't hard to find.
we're not. And we're gonna end by kind of like saying this real quick. So we wanted to invite everybody out. We have a big event coming up next Saturday. Next Saturday, is it? It's our virtual bingo. Kudos. I should have bought some of the prizes here. It'll be held. Somebody help me out.
At 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
virtually on Zoom.
Go ahead, Ari.
I was just saying it's 6 o'clock virtually on Zoom. So if you buy the tickets on Eventbrite, you can choose between having one card for $25, and every card after that is an extra $5. And then of course, sign up for the raffles. You get cash prizes. There's donations as far as personal chefs, stuff like that. So
Yeah, we have. I mean, they have a whole bunch of. We have Target gift cards. We have clothing. We have like men's grooming stuff. I mean, we have a whole lot of prizes. And it doesn't stop there. I think from right there after the bingo night. So don't forget, go to Eventbrite and you can look at what's the name of us on Eventbrite.
there's a bingo night from Black Push.
So it's bingo night from Black Push on Eventbrite. Or you can go to our website, www.blackpush.org, and it's on there. And followed by that, Nubi Corp is hosting a sip and paint. Is it
Wine tasting.
a wine tasting? Wine tasting with a twist. And when is that being held?
May 23rd from 4 to 8:30.
From 4 to 8:30, and it's being
Yes.
held in Mableton at the Mableton Kidiotic Center.
Yes. I'll give you the address once I remember it.
But they-
5590 Mapleton Parkway.
Oh, 5590 Mableton Parkway, and it's a wine tasting in general, but we're going to be adding painting and sip as well, and there will be prizes and things that you guys can win there as well, and there'll be a social event as well. So those tickets are
those tickets are for general admission it's $30, but with a twist it will be $50. Also don't forget to bring your business cards because there will be a lot of business networking as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so join us for both of those events, and just know that every single dollar that you support in our organization, it goes to help out to build something better, bigger. As we like to say at Black Push and Nubi Corp, we are building better together, and it takes all of us to do so. So thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. I know we're pretty early, but hey, we're going to go home.
Okay.
Peace.